Want to know the secret sauce to skyrocketing your group practice? Whether you're already a group practice owner or aspire to be one, the Group Practice Boss Conference in beautiful Traverse City, Michigan on May 6th and 7th, 2025 is designed just for you. This isn't your typical conference. Expect TEDx-style talks that are short, focused, and packed with actionable insights. But we believe the real magic happens when you connect with others in the field. So we've built in plenty of time for networking and deep conversations. You'll leave not just with a clear plan for success, but also with new friends and a support system that will help you along the way. Don't miss out. Reserve your spot today at practiceofthepractice.com/conference. Again, that's practiceofthepractice.com/conference. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1090. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. I hope your day is going amazing. We've been doing a ton of episodes recently. If you missed out on any of them, I'm just going to go back a few and kind of tell you just what we've covered. We just covered in episode 1084, when and how to hire team members that will help you scale. Then I did a solo episode on the ultimate roadmap to scaling your group practice in 2025. Then we talked with Brian Zhang, who is journeying through depression in music. And then we talked about AI mindset and writing a book. And then we talked about why is my marketing not working? And then I just did a solo show on how I got here. Tomorrow, we actually have a show. I'm so excited about this. It's Take Back Your Brain, how a sexist society gets in your head and how to get it out. And so Kara, I interviewed her yesterday, but it goes live tomorrow. So just different order there. So a lot of really great things coming up. Speaking of coming up, if you are in one of our membership communities, so Next Level Practice, Group Practice Launch, Group Practice Boss, you will see that you get first access to tickets for the Group Practice Boss Conference, which is happening May 6th and 7th here in Traverse City, Michigan, 2025. It's going to be like TEDx with shorter talks, meets just like an amazing time of networking and connecting with people. To me, my favorite part of a conference is meeting new people. When I was at Podcast Movement in Nashville a couple of years ago, some of the podcasters I got to hang out with, we had so much fun together, and we were on each other's shows afterwards, and we still connect over tons of different things. Those are the things that help you level up even more than some of the content you'll get. So the public tickets for those are going to go on sale November 4th. But if you're in the membership community, make sure you grab one of those, because those are going to be much cheaper for you and you get early access. So we're pretty sure that November 4th, most of those tickets are going to go, because a lot of our members are already saying that they're going to be getting their tickets when that opens to the membership. So again, that's practicethepractice.com/conference. Well, I can't wait for our discussion today. Charlotte Haigh is a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice in Los Angeles. She specializes in helping high-achieving millennial women overcome anxiety and heal trauma-related symptoms so that they can step into their authentic power. She also supports couples who are struggling with feelings of disconnection and a lack of spark. Charlotte integrates holistic and evidence-based treatments to support clients on a mind, body, and soul level. Charlotte, welcome to the Practice of Practice podcast.
Thank you, Joe. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Just a couple months ago, you were in one of our What's Working, which is what we put on with Next Level Practice, Group Practice Launch, and Group Practice Boss, where we just get together and talk about what's working. And immediately after that, I sent you an email and I'm going to read it. I said, "Hey, Charlotte, I was so impressed today with your approach to networking. Would you be up for coming on the podcast and talking about it?" It was just, I remember you were talking about how you approach networking, how it was working. I'm like, oh my gosh, the podcast audience needs to hear this. So we're going to dig into that today. But first, I would love to hear a little bit about you. Like, when did you start your private practice? And let's just start there. When did you start it?
Yeah, so I started my private practice almost exactly 4 years ago. The birth date of my practice is August 4th, 2020. And so I've been in practice for about 4 years now.
And why did you start a practice?
I started off in community mental health, and that's really, my heart is still in supporting and serving the community. But I did find that working the hours I was working and the demands in that type of environment was a lot. And one of the things that I love so much about our field and about this career path is the amount of flexibility and autonomy that we can have. And so I decided that I wanted to employ myself. I decided that I wanted to give myself the flexibility, the autonomy, the lifestyle that I felt could support me so that I could really support my clients. And I love creative projects too. So I love the idea of building a practice that is exactly what I think that the world and the community needs. And that's really what motivated me to start my own practice.
So awesome. Now, you joined Group Practice Launch, recognizing that you wanted to add some clinicians to your practice. What made you feel like it was time to start to level up in that way?
Yeah. So it's interesting because obviously when we are therapists, we are working with people all day long. That's our job, is to support people. And it's a different relationship. The client therapist relationship is very different than the colleague relationship. And I found that as much as I was in conversation and in connection with people all day long, I missed having that colleague vibe. I missed having people around that I could connect with and that I could also share more of myself with too. It's different to be the colleague or the boss even than to be the therapist. And so I started to really think about how can I create more of a feeling of having a team around me. And back to, I like autonomy, I like flexibility, I like to be creative. I thought, well, I'm probably not going to go work for somebody else at this point. I like being an entrepreneur, so I guess I will build it myself.
So tell me about that process. Like, what's been helpful in starting your group practice, and what's been challenging? Just take us through some of that.
Yeah, well, this is the big reason that I joined Group Practice Launch, is that I've honestly been talking about starting a group for a while. And I found that I was getting stuck in analysis paralysis. I probably still am, frankly, overthinking a lot of the aspects of it. And when it's just you and it's just you having a solo practice, you're only relying on yourself and you're only accountable to yourself. And I think that the idea for me of having a team that I support and that supports me also just puts more pressure on the situation in a positive way and also in a very real way where I don't want to, mess it up. I don't want, if I'm responsible for other people, it just puts a little bit more pressure and a little bit higher stakes on it. So I think that's probably one of the mindset challenges I've been working through of allowing myself to build something that is, I know is going to have some imperfection and letting that be okay. And as long as I'm sticking to my core values and as long as I'm being authentic and operating with integrity, then if the mistakes are made and I can be honest with the team, then it's fine. So I think that might answer the challenging part. And then on the positive end, it's just been a really fun, creative endeavor. It's been cool to think about what the real mission is of the company versus just looking at the day to day. And thinking bigger picture and longer term has been a lot of fun too, to think about like the greater impact I want to make in the community and on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, for anyone that's doing really good work in solo practice to evaluate why don't I want a group practice? A lot of times it's lack of knowledge. Like, I just don't know how to do that. It's, fear of growth. It's feeling like, oh, it's going to grow too fast and I'm going to kind of lose control or lose that DNA that I like right now of it. But I think that once people really start to get into it, and especially when they're a couple years into their group practice, they realize, okay, yeah, I didn't have the right information, but I got the right information. I was scared about the operations, but then I learned that, or I hired someone to implement that. And once they're in it, they're like, man, like, look at this impact I'm making and that our practice is making on the community and giving jobs and more mental health access. And the typical response we hear is, I wish I had done it sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've really done some cool stuff with networking, and I think just your overall posture towards networking is different. How would you explain how people typically think of networking as a counselor, and then how would you say that your approach to networking is different?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is thinking about the intention that you're going into a networking environment with. Like, let's say that you're going to an event that someone else is hosting. I think that sometimes we can get into a place of maybe a little scarcity where we go in and we think, okay, I need something from this. I need more clients, I need referrals, I need a resource I'm looking for. And we're going in sort of in that place of needing something, which is fine. That's a part of networking, is you're going to have a reciprocal give and take. But I really like to come from the place of, what can I provide? How can I be of service? And how can I step in from a place of just total abundance? And honestly, one of my core values is love. So how can I come from a place of love when I walk into this room, imagining that I don't need anything from these people? I am actually just showing up to serve and to give. That's a really helpful reframe for me, at least, because it puts me, I think, just into the energy of, there's less pressure too. It's like I'm going in to actually be of service and to provide, rather than I have to check this list off of things that I really need from this outing. And what I often find is, the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, yeah. Now, there's some kind of unique ways that you've also networked. You don't just go to your typical networking type of thing. Maybe list out like what types of things are you doing that you would put in that category of networking?
Yeah. So another thing I like to do is just, okay, what do I enjoy? What are the things that are fun for me? So I love to hike, for example. I love to move my body outside. And about 9, 10 months ago, so this was November 2023, I just had the idea of, what if I just put up on a Facebook group that I'm in of Los Angeles therapists that I'm going to host a therapist hike. And my goal was to have 5 other people come with me. And I knew that I could fill that quota with just my friends who are therapists. So I put it in the Facebook group. I said, I'm going to host this hike in Griffith Park here in LA. Whoever wants to join, shoot me an email or a DM, and I will send you the details. And that first hike back in November, which also was right around Thanksgiving, busy time, we had over 20 people, clinicians, come on that hike. And that was really cool and super powerful. And so we've made it into a monthly thing. I have a co-host here in LA named Ted, and he's actually an old friend too. So it's fun for us. We just host them monthly. It's very simple. We do the same hike every time. There's a little coffee shop that we all hang out at before and after. And slowly but surely, the hikes have been growing. Consultation groups have formed, friend groups have formed. I went last night to see Esther Perel speak with a bunch of people from the hikes. And that's been a really fun way of approaching it. Just, what do I like to do? And how can I turn that into a networking opportunity?
Yeah, even up here in northern Michigan, there's some therapists that have been hosting. I think they're calling them glimmer hikes, where it's sort of like this idea of, instead of a trigger, we're focusing on like glimmers of light in the world. And I've had some friends that have gone to them, and it's a really just cool way of saying, yeah, like, this isn't therapy, but if you want to give, $10 towards the therapist who's leading the hike, we'll be doing some things that are therapeutic in nature. And they'll do a hike, but then they'll also have more intentional kinds of things to help kind of shift mindsets, or, notice things, or notice your body. And I think that experiential approach to just living life and to bettering ourselves, just as a posture, is compelling. And so when you do that, when you say, okay, I like hiking, I like coffee shops, I want to network, even if maybe that doesn't come natural, what can I do that brings all that together? You then show up differently as your authentic self than if you're at some like BNI group where everyone's passing out their business cards and you just feel like you have to give your sales pitch to 50 people and then you just walk out.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I think, and yeah, like you said, it comes back to authenticity. And for me, I think that is so key in networking too, is I'm showing up as Charlotte. Yes, I'm a therapist. Okay. That's, kind of a given. But when we're in our authenticity, then we actually form those real human to human connections. And those are the people that you're going to end up either referring to or getting referrals from or really keeping in touch with, because you remember their humanity and you remember the way that they made you feel versus just, whatever's on their business card.
Yeah. Something always comes up when you're running a private practice. Well, Gusto's payroll and HR services can make it a little easier. Gusto was designed for you, the small business owner. They take the pain out of running a business, automatically calculating paychecks, filing payroll taxes, setting up open enrollment. Gusto does it all. Want more? Time tracking, health insurance, 401k, onboarding, commuter benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. With Gusto, you can focus on the joy of running your business. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you're moving from another provider, Gusto can transfer all the data for you. It's no surprise 99% of businesses said the value they get for Gusto is worth the price. And here's the best part. Because you're a listener, you get 3 months totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/Joe. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. I'm telling you, you're going to love Gusto. Get started today. Now, are you naturally more of an extroverted person, or are you naturally more introverted?
It's that answer shifts. I think the more that I get into being a therapist, I would say I actually feel a little bit more introverted. I need a little more time to recharge. But my default has always been, extrovert.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, for people that would say that they're more introverted, what would you recommend with them?
Yeah. So I think about my co-host for these hikes, Ted, who he would probably identify as an extrovert as well. However, we've worked out and we've talked a lot about kind of the way that we organize these is I'm typically more of the externally facing person, and then he's in a little bit more of the supporter role. And I think that works really well for us. And I think that could work really well for people who identify as more introverted, to maybe find somebody that has complementary skills to you. So I think we celebrate extroverts a lot in this society, but there's so much power and wisdom and just wonderfulness about introverts. So finding somebody who maybe has more of those extroverted qualities that complement all the wonderful qualities of more introverted folks, and teaming up, doing things together so that you can feel like you have kind of like two sides of a whole. That would be a really good way. Another way, again, is just to find things that you feel drawn to authentically. So it doesn't have to be this huge group of people on a hike. It can be, let's pick a book. So we have a topic that's sort of set that we know can ground us and can give us fodder to connect. So I think book clubs are really great. And then the last thing I'll say is back to like when you're stepping into a networking environment, if you do feel like you're more of an introvert, even me, the extrovert, I always step in and I say, okay, my goal is to talk to one other person before I leave this room. So if I'm going into this event and I say, I just really want to talk to one human being, and then I give myself permission to either, leave, take a break, go to the bathroom, whatever, just taking the pressure off of yourself. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room to be really impactful and to make deep connections.
Such a good point. When you think about, other people networking, what tips or opportunities do you think the average therapist is missing?
Yeah. So I think that this is a little counter to the therapist hikes I do. I think of networking, and there's a bunch of different ways you can do it. One of which is to connect with people who really understand your lived experience. Like for me, that's other clinicians, other therapists here in LA. We had this, unspoken understanding of what it's like to be a therapist in private practice in LA. And that's really powerful when you step into community of people who really are walking along the path that you're in. Another one that's kind of the opposite that I like to do is to put myself into rooms where I am one of one. So I like to, for example, I went to a networking thing recently that was not only I was the only therapist in the room, it was people who are in complementary specialties. So whether that's accounting or marketing or, even things that don't really feel directly aligned with therapy, like real estate, for example. And then I like to be the one of one. So I'm the one therapist who's showing up there. And I also like to go to markets that are slightly outside of my local region. So I'll go down to the OC, or I'll go to, San Diego sometimes, or places that I'm like, this is just close enough where I'm not totally out of my local region, but I'm the only therapist here, and I might be the only person even from LA here. So that I think helps you stay more memorable too. And then also make sure that there's synergy, because I think sometimes we get caught in networking with people that are so much in the same place that we are in a lot of ways that there's not as much opportunity for cross referrals, for synergy. So we do have to sometimes seek out ways to talk to people who are in either tangentially related fields or people who are in totally different fields or walks of life, so that we can create some more of those like connections, unexpected connections too.
Yeah. Now, what would you say having this more authentic networking has done for your practice?
So much. I mean, I really think the practice has benefited in the sense that I've definitely seen more referrals come through. I've seen more opportunities, for example, like speaking engagement opportunities, opportunities to host different types of events with other people who are looking to create more of an impact in the community. Um, and even on a personal level, I would say the payoff has been huge. Like just having a community of people that I can connect to on a personal and professional level has made me feel so much more confident. And also getting emails from people who have started to hear about the events that I'm hosting, started to hear about my practice, I think has made me realize that maybe I'm stepping into more of a leadership role in the community here in LA of therapists. And that reputation as a leader, I imagine I'm sowing seeds right now for things that down the line will really benefit the practice as well.
Mm, yeah. So when you think about growing the practice, you're starting a group. What else is kind of going through your head in regards to what you're thinking about in regards to growing the practice?
Yeah, so I think that one of the things that is a blessing and a curse about the way my brain works is that I always have really grand, big ambitions and really big dreams. So that's great. And I get very excited. And I'm actually working with Ashley Mielke, who's one of your one on one coaches, who's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out. But one of the things that she's really helping me focus on is singularity of focus. So really thinking about how do I get all the systems in place for this practice so that it can really not run itself, because I'll always, have some involvement, but that it can run smoothly so that I can then step into my thought leadership era. So that's really one thing I've been focusing on, or what are the systems that I have to have in place to feel like the foundation is rock solid so that I can then build the practice to a place where it can also support me as I step into different offerings, like retreats, speaking engagements. I'd love to write a book one day. I've got a lot of big stuff, but the first
Mm-hmm.
step is singularity of focus. Let's get this practice really solid.
Yeah, I love that. I'm really glad that you're getting kind of the practice going, so that that's predictable and can be scalable. I think oftentimes the fun side, not that running a practice isn't fun, but the writing a book, thought leadership, like having a podcast, all those sorts of things, like that's exciting. And lots of those things take a while to build too. And so if you have that predictable income where it's like, okay, for this period of time, I'm going to be just running full tilt towards a group practice. I'm going to go 12 inches in one direction instead of 1 inch in 12 directions. And then when that's clicking along, to be like, okay, how do I do some audience building here? How do I level up that thought leadership? I love that you're doing it in that order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. You got to walk before you run. So
Yeah. Well, Charlotte, the last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
I would just want them to know that everything that you are doing, whether you know it or feel it or not, is making a difference in this world. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in, we're healers at the end of the day. We're heart-centered people. Most of us are really in this to make that heart-centered impact. And we're not always going to be the most brilliant, savvy business people. And so if you're making mistakes, if you're stumbling and fumbling a little bit on the business side of things, just come back to your mission, come back to your vision, come back to the impact that you want to make on the world. And remember that you're already doing that just by showing up every day. That is making a huge positive impact on the world. And that's what you're here to do. So I just want to, remind everyone, because I think that we can get hard on ourselves and we can forget that we're really making that positive impact on the world. And so I think that's something that every clinician probably can't hear enough. So thank you, all of you out there, for doing what you do.
So awesome. Well, Charlotte, if people want to connect with you, if they want to follow your work, your practice, where should we send them?
Yeah. So new website under construction. So for now, it's still my first name and last name, charlottehaigh.com is the website where you can find me. And I'm also pretty active on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @therapywithcharlotte.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you so much, Joe. This was great.
We just did the 2024 State of Private Practice Survey, and we're putting together that final white paper to send out to the people that had done the survey and those that wanted access to that. And one of the biggest things that we noticed was half of the people that took it are in solo practice, and in a solo practice that's going well, and they're not planning to really level up by having a group practice. And also that marketing and getting new clients in is the number one issue. And so you're going to hear lots that we do on networking, on marketing, on helping fill you up as we plan out the end of this year and next year. And so we want to continue to help you level up. And if you're looking to do some one-on-one consulting, like Charlotte mentioned, with one of our consultants, with me, I would love to meet with you for 30 minutes. We do a pre-consulting call. We talk about where are you at now? Where are you headed? What are the big KPIs, the key performance indicators that you would want to hit in the next 6 months or so? The things that if you completed those, you would just be like, this is such a great use of my time and money. I do probably, depending on the week, 5 to 10 of these calls. And so I never have to feel like I have to squeeze anyone into consulting. Not that I would, even if I just had one. But we have plenty of work coming in, and we just want to help you figure out within your budget and within your timeline, how do we move things along faster for you? So that is a great option for you if you want some consulting over at practiceofthepractice.com/apply, and we'll chat about your situation and then the recommendation for consulting. And you know what? We could not do this show without our sponsors. Gusto is our sponsor today. They're who we use for our time tracking, our health insurance, 401k, onboarding. We don't have commuter benefits, but if we did, we could run that all through there as well. Gusto is awesome. It's so easy, especially around tax time, for me to download things as an employee of Practice of the Practice, but then also from the business side as well. So we'd love for you to head on over to gusto.com/Joe. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. And I'm telling you, you are going to love Gusto. We've used it for years. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.